Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's a good evening this side, and I welcome you all to the Think Space, a weekly podcast that is going to be running where we have activists each and every week. So, today I have a number of activists here with me, and I'm so happy to host you. I think I introduced my name. Maybe I could repeat it once again. My name is Akelo Pismarisha, an activist, and we have a topic with us here today. And as you all know, we are headed for elections, and the topic says 2026 elections. Is it worth going for it given the previous failed attempts? One of failed attempts that we've had is military violence, and we would ask ourselves, what does this communicate? We've had conversations over time where people say elections cannot remove the government, and it's not my job to really talk about it. So with me here, I'm going to have a panel. I'm going to give each one of them a minute to introduce themselves so that we get to know whom we are dealing with. Um, the person next to me is a very beautiful lady. And madam, you're very much welcome to the panel. Please, could you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, moderator.
Yeah, okay.
I'm very honored to be here. A very good evening to our audience today. My name is Apio Ramto Flavia, an activist and a human rights advocate from Omoro district. Thank you so much.
Okay, the gentleman in the room.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I am Gideon Nova Kwicheriza. I am an activist. I'm glad to be here.
And the lady, Mama Mukono.
Thank you so much. Good evening, our dear viewers and listeners. My name is Margaret Natabi. I am a human rights activist, a climate activist, and also a leader. To add on, I am a farmer and I come from Mukono. Thank you so much.
Okay, so to my dear moderators, we've had a conversation that has been running over time, where we've had people say elections cannot remove the government, and this has called for boycott. And I think military violence could be just part of the other reasons. But majorly, we all know over time there is either going to be a rigged election where people call the elections in the country a sham. So I want to know, what is your take? Do you think it is worth it? Maybe you could give us a preamble of this. To start with you, Madame Flavia, do you think elections are worth it? We are headed, it's 2025, 2026 is just at the door knocking. Do you think it's worth it?
Thank you. In my opinion, I think it is not worth it.
Okay.
Firstly, we've had elections for the longest time possible. We've always voted and nothing has changed. And the aspect of boycott is a hard conversation to have, I would agree. A very, very hard conversation to have. However, I also think while having these conversations and sitting on these podcasts, we need to understand first, why are we having these conversations? Is it because we want change? I mean, if it is because we want change, then why are we going back to something that we've already failed at? We've had the conversations of elections cannot change government. If elections cannot change government, then why are we going back for these elections? But then still, the aspect goes back to boycott. If we are boycotting these elections, are we boycotting them from the presidential election, or are we boycotting them from the top to the bottom? We can say from the presidential to the LC1, no one goes for the election. That, to me, that is what we call a boycott.
Okay. So I have a couple of takeaways from your conversation. And maybe Nova could start from there. What is your opinion? Do you think it is worth it for us to go for an election? Alsha said that over time it's been a story that is recurring. If it is a book or a novel, we know how the story ends over time. So do you think it's worth it?
Thank you so much. And before I even take on the question, I want to thank the organizers of these kind of conversations for young people like us. I have been an advocate for a long time. I've been crying out to mainstream media houses to give an opportunity to young people to have their views about the governance, especially the governance of this country, considering that we are the majority of the population. But it seems it's been a deliberate move to have young people get into music and all these other things and deny them the right to get into serious national conversations. So now that we have our spaces, let's have them. So um, there are three ways, in my view, three ways in which we can have change in this country. One is through an election.
Mm.
Two is an armed struggle. Three is a mass uprising. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to assess all these three options and see what is more viable, what is more feasible, what is more achievable. You
Can
know?
I interject?
Yes.
You've talked about three options. To you, what do you think is more viable forward?
That's where I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm saying we have to assess and see what is more viable. One, you can you may not an armed struggle is not an option right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because first of all, um, you don't have what it takes, you know, to get arms, and that's not even a discussion for today. And even those they allege have tried have really failed.
Mm.
We've had people like Connie and these others, the rebels, the known rebels that we've had. They have really failed miserably. A mass uprising is also another option, actually one of the best options, because that speaks to the power of the people. When a population, Ugandans, rise up to stand and stage a protest, and demand for their rights and change. That's something that can actually speak volumes, both in Uganda and at an international level. But that's also considering the levels of the levels of I didn't want to use this word, but we have to be realistic. The levels of ignorance in our people. Yeah. Even people who are oppressed do not know that they are actually oppressed. They are comfortable, they are in their comfort zones, they can't afford to take their kids to school, they can't afford basic treatment, they can't afford anything, and they pay taxes, you know but they are so comfortable, they feel like that's the life they are supposed to be living. So for you to achieve a mass uprising, you must have an informed population. It is only an informed population that demands, you know. So the only option we have right now, as I conclude, the only option that we have right now, and the option that whose end result can actually cause the other option of a mass uprising, is an election. What do we achieve in an election? We may not achieve a win. We may not achieve a change, but this is the only time you get space to speak, to talk to your people, and educate them about their rights, their freedoms, about change, about why they need change. This is the only time. In normal circumstances, you're 20 people, you meet somewhere, they will come and tear gas you and arrest you. But during elections, you have a chance. And this is why I've been telling young people to get into leadership positions, so that they get a chance to speak to their people and educate them. So I think if you compare uh, Ugandans of 2001, when Dr. Kizza Besigye started running for presidency, and the Ugandans of today, you will see a very big change in terms of how informed they are and how they demand for change and all these things. So this election contributes to the civic education that we need to do. It is a space. Lastly, It exposes. You remember in 2021 how the state killed people. I think more than 100 Ugandans died on the streets of Kampala. Some people who are not even engaged in active politics died. We have people since 2021 who are still in prison and have never been tried under the military court martial. All this is exposing, and that this is the only way we awaken Ugandans to see what is going on in this country, and that can only be achieved through an election. And trust me, one day, if we keep doing this, Ugandans will stand up and they will reclaim their country.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a very interesting conversation. So you've talked about the alternatives that we have and all that. And I'm going to direct this question to Margaret, Mama Mkono. He talks about an election, he talks about the armed struggle, the mass uprising. Do you think the people of where you come from, actually, because I believe you could speak for that very sector of people, are ready to boycott an election if that's what you want? And then the other thing, he talked about elections being, grounds for exposing the government. As we may all agree, it's a dictatorship and anything can be put up for play. Are they remorseful? You understand? So, do you think we should keep on using elections as an attempt to expose the government? Right? And if you think it works, then I don't know. You could give us your thought.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The previous speakers are on the same note. I have heard the ideas and the views. However, the ideas could be workable. You could say when we go for the campaigns, we have the space to talk to our people. But I want us to go back to reality, what is on ground. If we are in a process where we can't even allow a candidate to to successfully go for nomination, that even the 20 people that are going to follow a candidate to go for nomination are going to be dispersed. We are just at the inception of the electoral process. I want you to imagine what is going to happen when the actual campaigns begin. We saw in the previous campaigns during COVID, they could even stop us from meeting and listening to our candidates. And this time round, I feel like it's going to be worse, based on what I've seen from the by-elections. We might not get that chance as opposition to have enough time to talk to our candidates. It is going to be bloody. People are going to be lost. Yes, like Fresh said, we have to ask ourselves questions like, why are we going in for an election? Are we going to get leaders so that they expose? Are we going to get leaders so that they speak, condemn what is happening? Or we want to change governance? Now, if we want to change government and we want to remove someone who says, in quotes, kapapura, bupapura tekanzija mu ntebe, meaning just a ballot cannot take me out of my seat, and we are still going for the same process to take away that man, I think someone said you cannot keep using the same formula that failed to achieve better results. So if we want to change government, for one, I think elections are not going to work. We are going to lose people, others are going to be abducted, others are going to be arrested. And by the way, after all the things that happened in 2021, I expected the anger and rage of Ugandans to be at the top, for them to come to the streets and be like, enough is enough. Elections ended, the man swore in, we moved on. Those that were arrested, a few of them that have accepted the charges, which are not even there, maybe, have accepted and they've been released. But others, like Machete, who have refused, are still there. People moved on. No one came to the streets. What if the same thing happens? We actually go for the elections, abductions happen, people die, and the man swears in, and we move on the same way we are doing. Elections can help us to expose, very good, and that exposure can, raise the anger, that urge for the people to raise up. On the other note, it can also scare people. They can be scared. I mean, after whatever happened and whatever is happening right now, you call people to join you and they're like, no, I'm going to be killed. I have a family. I have to work. I'm going to be arrested. So we might think it is going to expose. Actually, it is going to scare more people to instill fear in them so that they keep silent. It's a two-way thing. Why are we going for the election? If we want to get leaders to represent us, we are going to get the leaders. But also representation and implementation under this regime is like a bit impossible. All we are going to see the results are going to be very minimal. Look at our political parties. We all have manifestos, and we are not able to implement the manifestos because we don't have money. Now look at the ruling government, which has money. Look at their manifesto. How much have they been able to implement with all the money they have? The system is very rigid. The system is not accommodative for the leaders to implement and represent. So we have to ask ourselves those questions. As for me, who badly needs change? I really want this government to change anytime soon. And I feel like an election, it might be a spark, but to a very, very, very lesser extent. So I'll go in for boycotting of the elections. Thank you so much.
Okay, very interesting argument. Maybe to note something, we are going into an election where we are having the ruling party at grassroots levels, right? And we don't know how much is the opposition in terms of being in the grassroots. How many people in the villages know about change? So this calls for civic education, because the gentleman in the room talked about mass uprising, right? And I believe this as well calls for civic education. I believe from 2001 to 2021, there should have been a good number of people who are civically aware, but we still see the country in a state of, should I call it shock? You know. But then this brings my question. She talked about a candidate who could not even go to nominate successfully, right? My question to you, Flavia, do you think the opposition is ready for this conversation? You get. We have seen the opposition coming together to organize prayers given the incident that has been happening where we have Dr. Kiza Besigye incarcerated, where we are having the court martial dismantlement, where the Supreme Court gives a different ruling. We are having members of the ruling party, MPs, coming, to sit in a caucus to bring back the same conversation. So, is the opposition ready for this conversation? If that's what you, as activists, and most importantly, young people who are in need of change, I believe some of you have been affiliated to political parties, right? How ready are your leaders in regards to this conversation? And what steps are they willing to take towards achieving that? Or it is as well just going to be something we talk about, like, there have been conversations of having one, opposition candidate over time, and it's still not achievable. So how ready do you think your political party, if you're affiliated to any, is ready to have this conversation?
Thank you so much. First things first, yes, I am a proud member of the National Unity Platform. And I first want to agree and disagree with my brother here. You know, many Ugandans, yes, we're very oppressed because of everything that is going on. And I would agree with you, very many don't know that they're going through these things. But also, the issue of civic engagement is not something that happens in the election or in the election period, in the campaigns. Why? Because, as Margaret said, a lot of people are going to be oppressed. You're going to hear of the abductions, you're going to hear of the all those things. They have already started. So it is very difficult for people to even listen to things that you're saying. So the issue of civic engagement is out of question for me in that period. However, to go back to your question on opposition, Right now, I do not think the opposition is ready, truthfully. And why? Because on grassroots, we have seen people build structures. Yes, we've talked to people about change. We have told people, yes, we need to change this government because of this and this. But we still need to realize that there are a lot of young people and old people that believe peace is what they need in this country. They don't believe in freedom, according to them. And I believe they think they have the freedom that they have already. And yet it is a camouflage. This is a camouflage. People believe if we are here and no one is disturbing us, it's freedom. People believe if we can go to the bar on a Saturday night, it's freedom. That is what young people are believing today. And now to change their minds and tell them this is not freedom, this is not what you signed for. It's going to be very difficult, and it's going to be a very difficult conversation to have with people that believe they already have the freedom. I always tell people, whenever we are talking bad governance, people switch the conversation to NRM brought peace. But bad governance and peace have got nothing to do with each other. You know, I mean, we are not talking peace, we're talking bad governance, we're talking about bad roads, we're talking about poor health services that our people need in our societies. Yeah. So, usually, when we're having these conversations, we need to realize that a lot of people do not understand what they're into. They do not understand that we're not just advocating for change because it is good for us now. We're advocating for change because years from now, you may have a child that needs the medical care you know, that you should have advocated for now, and they will not have it. They will not have it. And truthfully, we shall be there to blame because our kids will ask us, what did you do? Did you wait for an election? What exactly did you do? And what shall we tell them? Shall we tell them we kept voting? Shall we tell them we kept voting opposition? Shall we tell them we kept going to, you know, and aspiring for places of leadership? That is not good enough, according to me. That is not good enough. Yes, we are opposition, however united we may be. I do not think we are ready to go for this election because it's going to come out the same way. Yes, I agree. Ugandans have, over time, realized what is going on. Many know, by the way, many know that a lot is happening. There's brutality, there's this, there's that. But we need that spark. And that spark is not going to come by creating the excess fear amongst them. You agree, a lot of Ugandans do not even vote. Why don't they vote? I've talked to Ugandans that tell me for us we do not vote because we know the results already. So if Ugandans already know the results, why are we going for the election? I mean, 2026 will come, we'll vote by Feb, March. We'll not even talk about it, by the way, because a lot of people are not going to come from their homes. The rich are going to dust their passports and take their children abroad because of the fear that something is going to happen. And then us, the poor, are going to stay here and wait for what might happen. Are you getting my point? So, for me, I think the issue of a spark, yes, we need Ugandans to get angry. But Ugandans are not going to get angry if we are not making them angry. You get? And the fact that we cannot make them angry by doing the same things over and over again, they're going to slap them with the statements of we brought peace. And a lot of Ugandans in the village still believe that. In Omoro district in northern Uganda, we all know that the NRA killed more people than the Konyi rebels. But that is not a conversation they're willing to have because they have camouflaged as peace and they have made people believe that they are the ones that are bringing the peace. So every time we talk about an issue of governance, people are like, no, they brought peace. I think our discussion should be more on how are we willing to twist people's minds and tell them this is not the freedom that you signed up for. You people pay taxes, you know. We're in the age bracket where we now pay taxes. You know the pain of paying taxes. You know the pain of going to hospital. We have health centers in our villages. You're told to go, you go, you're checked, and then you're told to go and buy medicine from a pharmacy. With which money? With which money? These are the conversations we're supposed to have now. So that is it from me.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Kwikiriza, you've listened to Flavia's submission. You know, she started by disagreeing, and we could agree and disagree on a few things. My question is, do you think the political actors in the opposition are ready to have this conversation? And to be more specific, I believe we cannot have this conversation in the grassroots, right? Yet the political actors are willing to engage in an election. At the end of the day, the people will have no option but to engage in an election. And as well, we may say, oh, maybe the opposition is ready, you know, to go into a boycott and all that. What do you think the reaction of the ruling government could be? Could they still go on with an election? And, you know, like tomorrow we may have people unopposed, eh? And we are having a parliament that is saying, yes, yes, caucus, yes, this and that. So, yeah.
Yeah. One is that I want to set a question to my sisters here. Uh, if you'll give them a chance. So what when you boycott? That's the question.
True.
When you boycott, the question there, because we have to weigh uh, the 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 impact. Yeah, we have to weigh what do we achieve when we get into an election, and as opposed to what we achieve when we boycott the election. We all know that when you boycott, when the main figures in the opposition boycott, say Honorable Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu. Now I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Lord Mayor is coming for PFF. Then we have General Mugisha Muntu for ANT and the other players. When they boycott, Museveni and his people are going to get candidates, fund them, and they run. Just like it happens in Rwanda. There is no opposition in Rwanda. Most of the presidential candidates you see in Rwanda are actually working with President Kagame, and they are his own projects. But they are supposed to make it look like there is democracy and there is opposition and all these things. So when these people boycott and Museveni stages his people and an election happens and we move on, like what? So what next? But to get to your question, and maybe to first answer, when I talk about the impact, the need, as the reason why we need an election, yeah. First of all, you need to look at how the numbers, how Ugandans have been getting interested in participating in elections. Yeah, the number has been growing. I think if I'm not mistaken, the past election 2021, we had around 17 million voters, registered voters in Uganda. But that's not how it has been. It has been growing. If you look at the number of voters, registered voters of 2001, 2006, 2011, the number has been growing. Two, when you look at the pressure that has been imposed on the regime, yeah, the pressure has been growing. When you look at the parliamentary seats, the opposition parliamentary seats, the numbers have been growing, and all the other leadership positions, you know, the the people have been voting, you know, have the numbers of leaders at level of member of parliament, LC5 chairpersons, and the local leadership. The number has been growing. But when you talk about how ready the opposition political parties are, this is where I get issues with my colleagues here from National Unity Platform as the leading opposition political party. And it is the same problem FDC tried when they were still at their prime. But me as a patriot who does not necessarily even believe in political party, and these are some of the reasons why I don't believe in them. I feel like we have NRM here that is playing with us, and then we have opposition that is also doing the same. The question is, we listened to you in the past election 2021 when you said we are a new party, we have just registered, we could not have capacity to mobilize. We have given you 5 years now. What kind of mobilization have you done? That is the question. I have had conversations with a number of leaders in the NUP, you know, because even when I don't support NUP because of my reasons, I don't subscribe to it, but I want change, you know. I would rather have NUP take on leadership, then we can deal with it later, but let NRM go, you know. But my question is, what kind of mobilization have you been doing? And I'll be honest, you know, the problem we've had in this country is having individuals. We have political parties that are based on individuals, and we have to agree on this. There is no NRM without Museveni. Trust me, it cannot even survive the next 2 years without Museveni. It will either change or, you know, people will get into other political parties. There is no NUP without Bobby Wine. The day Bobby Wine leaves NUP, it is not NUP. There is no, you have seen what happened to FDC when Dr. Kizza Besigye decided to go and sit and live and rest. I think he's now trying to come back because he sees no, you know, no progress in the party. So my question to, and here is my suggestion. I've always given these people advice, okay? That, and this is specific to NUP because it is the leading opposition party. It is the hope that we have now as a generation. It's not Bobby Wine, it's not Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu who is supposed to be mobilizing everywhere in the country. You need to have party structures, you know. You need to have party structures. And I have my advice, and I hope that these people can take the message and maybe they extract something from this, you know. I have been telling them, how about you have a shadow government right from LC1? How about you have where there is, because majority, I think like 80% of the LC1 chairpersons that we have in this country are NRM, and deliberately they even refuse to organize. They refuse to organize LC1 chairperson elections because they want to have their people. Yes, they want to keep their people there. So how about you have your shadow LC1 chairperson? You have LC2. These people are not doing official duty, but they are NUP. You know that in village A, LC1A, B, C, across the country, we have these people, LC1, LC2, LC3, LC5, and you have members of parliament. These people will help you, first of all, spread the gospel of NUP right from the grassroots. But what we see is that for everything that has to be done, Honorable Kyagulanyi has to travel to Katakwi, has to travel to, and they know that before you set off, going to, when you say you're going to Mbarara, they will find you around Masaka and they will tear gas you and they will bring you back. So what are you achieving from that? Why don't you have structures so that you have this local leadership, you have members of parliament, you have regional representatives, and these people through that cycle can be able to move the message and protect your election. So I don't think that the opposition parties are ready yet. I don't see that readiness yet, but I still believe that an election is the best option that we have right now to be able to achieve the long run goal that we have of achieving change in this country.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think you've given me a direction towards Margaret. So the conversation is this: the opposition is not ready. I don't really think you need to answer that question,
I
but
need to.
you want to?
Yes.
Okay, but maybe you could add in something. Nope, you're a member of the National Unity Platform. You've had the past uh, four, 5 years, I would say. What has the party done? What do you have when it comes to grassroots? Do my people in Kabramaido, in Katakwi, in Serra know about Snoop? I mean at the grassroots, not people who are in the political system. And maybe the other question, if you think the opposition has not been ready, right? How are the young people getting this conversation to the grassroots? Because maybe this would pull out the notion that we should not sit back and wait for politicians to be able to answer our questions. I guess that's why some of us are into activism, because you understand at the end of the day, politicians are not the sole, solutions that sole solution towards what we want to do. So, Margaret, have you been on ground? What have the people of Mukono told you about, boycott and all that? So maybe you could start there.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator, and the previous speakers. My brother here has fired us so many questions, which I'm ready to answer maybe here or sometime later. But number one, I don't want to sound like a noob apologist, but as a member of National Unity Platform, I'm going to tell you we might not be ready there. But again, saying we've not done anything, that's very wrong. We have done actually a lot. You say, nope, you've given us about 4 years. Yes, we admit. I don't want you guys to take us on a speed where you judge us basing on the party that has spent 40 years in power. Because they're going to say youth elections are coming, and before you know it, NRM has sent, troops on every village. They're doing digitalization. Right now, I've seen them in Mokono. They've camped for the past 3 weeks. They're digitalizing whatever they spent in power for over 30 something years. They have all the money. Tell me, what are the sources of NUPU's income? Can you compare it to the NRM? I am not an apologist, but I am saying we have tried our best so far to, at least through the Konga campaign, to put mobilization structures. They might not have covered the whole of Uganda, but where possible, we have structures actually of about 15 people per village. They are there from the village up to district level, actually up to regional level. You get, we have not been able to go to the whole nation, but we have done some work in our capacity amidst everything, amidst the intimidations, amidst the fear, amidst the lack of actually funds to use. We have tried our best, even when we are not 100% there. Now, back to the election. That's why I told you, if we are going to have this discussion, we have to ask ourselves, why are we going in for the election? Is it to change power? Is it to increase pressure or to get leaders? Now, I want to thank my brother. He has said, when you look at the numbers of voters, it has been changing from 2001 up to where we are right now. But now, instead of comparing the number of voters in 2021 to that of 2016 and below, can we now go back to ratios? What was the population of Uganda in 2001? What were the voters? Get that ratio. What is the current population of Ugandans today? And of that population, who have voted? I think we can get the right numbers, because yes, we might have increased because the population is increasing, not because people are more interested into elections. So do we have those questions? So you're asking me, what are we doing to take this to the grassroots? Party level, we have done mobilization. To me, in my district in Mokono, I'll tell you the structures are there. I don't know in Omoro or where my brother comes from. I don't know what is there. As for my district, the structures are there, and I'm part of. And no, I'm not a spokesperson of NOP. I am speaking as a member of the National Unity Platform in Mokono. I am a leader in NUP in Mokono, and I am saying in Mokono, NUP has structures from the district level to constituency to division to the village. We have mobilization structures. Are we together? So we might not be ready per se for the elections, but we have done what we can do. through our capacity as a party. That does not say that I agree we should go for the elections. I do not agree. Because my brother said, if you don't go for the election, then what? Number one, we are going to save people from losing their families. We are saving people from abductions. We are saving people that are going to die, innocent people that are going to die. Someone would actually take their life on the street and is saying, let me die to change this country. But after them dying, are we going to change the country? They will rest in peace. They will rest in satisfaction, knowing I died and change happened in my country. My death sparked. But is it going to happen? So even when we are going for the election, yes, we are going, and we know the results. After elections, then what? I pose back a question. After elections, then what?
Okay, maybe agrees to have a boycott. The FDC agrees to have a boycott. What do you think could be done then?
Okay. So we have all agreed as opposition, we're not going for the election.
Yeah, sure.
Then what do our people want? They want change of government. In the meantime, because when we say not going for the election, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. The election is going to happen. So as our people are busy into the election, now we are cooking our minds. What should we do? Because they are going to win, but what should we do? If it is to invoke masses to join us on the streets, what should we do to invoke their emotions so that they can join us? Now that is the discussion.
So you can't invoke them during elections, in that heated election, and you want
How
to
are we?
invoke them when the country is settled, like today.
It is not going to be settled. The election is going to be happening. Museveni is going to get his opponents. They're going to be running their sham
Yes,
election.
and we mean after the election, when the country is now settled, you want to invoke people to come to the streets.
No, let me tell you
That's
something.
achievable.
No, let me. It is very achievable, by the way.
Wow.
Why are
Very
you not doing
achievable.
it now?
Because in the moment, me, I'm speaking as me. I don't want the election. But tell you what, the leaders, the opposition parties, some of them have already declared they are coming for the election. So right now, I cannot start invoking people's emotions because for them, the people they are going to vote have already declared they are going to run. Now I'm giving my opinion that as me, I feel like we shouldn't go for that election. And if I stood before my leaders and all opposition leaders, I would tell them, I think we need to do this and this and that. The election is just going to cost us and give us the same results. Unless you leaders are telling me we are going for the election not to change the governance, but to participate and get leaders and go and expose them. If that is it, even me, I'm going to run because I know I'm going to win. And if exposure is the thing, I will record, I will talk, we shall expose. That we can all do. But if we want to change governance, I'm saying elections are not going to work. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Margaret has brought me to something. I always had a notion that some of our MPs are working in Luganda. They say kabandabe. I have tried my best. They call it okuzoganya. So that when we come back down to the constituencies, we are telling our people that we have tried. So, Flash, I don't know how the grounds are in Omoro. I don't know what our people in Omoro are talking about in this regard. But assuming the boycott happens or it doesn't happen, what can the young people be doing amidst military threats? Because we have seen abductions happening even before the elections start. You get? And I believe that our voices are a threat to the government. What we speak is heard. Moving away from the whole political affiliation, what do you think the young people in Omoro should be doing? The young people in my district, in her district, his district, could be doing? Because let's walk away from relying on political parties and political actors, because maybe they may not serve us. Some of them could be looking for political careers. Some of them could be thinking that the best way they can serve us is by being in political office. You get? So what are the young people doing? Let's take the whole conversation back down to us. What are we doing? What can we do? How do we do it? Why should we do it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I even answer the question, I want to take it back to my brother Gideon. Well, we have structures in our districts in the north, you'd be shocked. You'd be surprised because I know you look at the whole social media thing, you think people only go there when uh, the president,
I'm
our
actually informed
president,
on the ground, not on
is
social
going
media.
there. No, you are. I now believe you're informed on social media because I'm from Omoro district. I live there. I've been born there. So if I'm telling you we have structures and then you're telling me we don't because you see His Excellency going there once in a while,
We
then
shall
it
see
becomes a
results in
problem.
2026. The
It
election
becomes
is
a
here.
problem.
We shall see.
It becomes a huge problem. But anyway, we have done, I think we have done what we have to do as National Unity Platform. We've had the shortest time, I think 4 years, but in 4 years, you know us. You're having conversation about NUP. That is something, you know. Looking at the mobilization, we've mobilized. If we hadn't mobilized, we wouldn't be having MPs in parliament. That is the biggest. That is the biggest thing. Yeah. So with mobilization, I believe we have tried our best. However unready we are, we have done our part as opposition. But well, taking it back to the moderator, interestingly, if we had decided to boycott, I imagine we had decided to boycott from the level of president to LC1. Everyone says we're not going for the election, and then probably the NRM comes in and puts in their people. That is even bigger awareness than entering an election because people are now seeing and they're like, we have all boycotted, but these people have still had the guts to come and bring in, their own people. Now that's where the civic engagement starts
Let me
from. We
cut you
start telling
short.
our people, yeah.
Don't you think at that point, as an old lady in my village, I know at the end of the day there have to be leaders, you know? I am looking at the NRM trying to solve a problem that maybe the opposition has created. You don't want to be in the election process, right? But then there have to be people who are serving community. So how are you going to drive this narrative when my old grandmother in the village thinks the NRM is doing her a favor to have an LC1, LC2, LC5 person in position because they need service delivery at the end of the day. So how are you curbing that?
That all goes back to what my sister Margaret talked about. We have a lot of camouflage that we are we are putting in as service delivery, and our people in the villages have that too. But now the whole issue of boycott, the biggest question is going to be, why are you boycotting this election? You as a leader, your people, your grandmother is going to ask you, naye kati peace, lwaki twagala genda mu kalulu? You get? And of course, your answer is going to be like, we've been doing this for ages and nothing is happening. We're still the same people. We're still suffering. We're still doing this and this. And by the way, these people in the villages understand these things. These people understand these things. They understand that this government cannot be changed through an election. That is the reason most of them stay home. Most of them stay home. They're like, okay, if we don't vote Museveni, Katinera agenda wangula akalulu. You get? But if we come up and say, okay, we are boycotting, they'll ask us, what other things should we do if you people are boycotting the election? And that is where we start to speak, you know, freedom into people's minds. We're telling you, this is not, you're not doing this just for me, you're not doing this just for you, you're doing it for generations. This is where the mindset therapy comes in, and that is where my brother's aspect of civic engagement comes in, because we're not going to have civic engagements and education while people are being abducted. Every morning I'm going to be fearing for my life. I'll be like, now ngende wali, what is going to happen to me next? But at the heat of that moment, we're boycotting, but we of course have a plan. He gave three options of how we can change government. Yeah. And that just, it's actually not even a question to answer, because if you've given your three options, yeah, if you're boycotting the election, what else are you going to tell people? Of course you're telling them The next thing we're going to do is do this to change this government. So it all takes us back to the civic
So,
engagement.
it's a very democratic nation. So I'm going to
Right.
first cross to Margaret.
Yes.
Margaret. Then I'll come back to the gentleman because at the end of the day, it's two against one. Margaret, what's your take? What are the young people going to do differently?
Okay. Before I even go to what the young people are going to do, I want to add on what you have said. You see, you're saying we need leaders. If you boycott, the old person down there says, I need a leader to implement. Now, I am a counselor where I come from. I'll tell you, because of this government, because of the regime, you think people don't know the regime affects them. People don't know the regime affects them until actually, these people just need to be working now. Because you think you need a leader. Now, me, I'm a counselor. I sit in a council. And people at the village level will be like, councillors are not working. You know why? Because we have a regime that brought decentralization, and the same regime removed the powers. The system there are no powers. We collect the taxes, lots of taxes. We have to send back the money to the government, and when they feel like, they send us what they want to send back. So we have to use that money, clean the city, work on government schools, work on hospitals, work on this and this and that. At the end of that day, the money is not enough. We don't get it in time, but we send the taxes in time. It is the old person in the village who is suffering. But councillor, you're not removing Kasasilo. Kasasilo has spent here a month. The markets are full of Kasasilo. Everywhere it is full. And we can't take the Kasasilo because we don't even have money to buy fuel to run the cars that are going to take the trash. Are we together? So this people think actually the government is not very tough. But then when you go back and you check how they are living, they need change. So what is the use of you having leaders? Because we are there. Opposition and NRM, we are there. But we are not giving them the service they need. So what is the use? Instead, if we knew we didn't have leaders, and we say as a village, as a community, we don't have leaders, but we have Kasasiro, we have Bulungi Wansi, let us wake up and clean our city. Are we together? I think that would be a better option. We don't have leaders, we come together as us. Now the civic education will be helping as we also work with our people. Than having leaders who are like dolls. Yes, they are there, but are you represented? Are you happy with the services? However much the leaders want to work, because we really want to deliver service, but the condition is not favorable. We cannot deliver the service. If we deliver, we are going to deliver lower than the expectations people have in us. So what's the use at the end of the day? What are the young people doing? What we are doing here is part of what the young people are doing. And I am very happy for the organizers of this space. Very happy. Because you're helping the young people reach our voices to other people. Now, may have a group of foot soldiers in Mokono, a very good group. They will do anything. You tell them. Okay, I don't know their names, I don't know where they stay, but I know them. So at least they're not doing any violence, but everyone has a smartphone. I tell them, let's have those lives on TikTok. Very many people have TikTok these days, and they'll sit and listen. Someone just says something, protest vote. They don't even know what it means, but you find them talk about protest vote, protest. They just need you to emphasize more about it. So they have TikTok. They keep doing those lives and people joining, and they keep telling them the civic education that the political parties are going to ask for money. They write proposals to funders, give us money to do civic education. We are doing it down there using our own little data, and people are opening their eyes slowly. So as you go to the ground, the border person that is driving you, give them the gospel. The people you live around, give them the gospel. The foot soldiers are doing their work. You get, before we get the money we need to do the whole community civic engagement, which might not even happen if we are going to do it in this current electoral process, because I'm telling you, it is going to be very hard. It is going to be very hot. It is going to be very hot. Personally, yes, if the party is running, I'll run. I'm telling you, I'm going to run for political office. But if there was an option of do not, I would.
But you have an option at an individual level.
It will not cause change. That's why you're saying you.
So why are
Let
you
me
going
tell
to
you something.
protest? You as an individual.
First, wait. I'm telling you, Gideon. You're saying we can invoke masses, hit the street. You alone, you can hit the street. Would it change Museven? You need masses. The same way you need very many people to join your voice as you're hitting the street is the same way I need all leaders to join me and we say no election because me as a person, it won't change.
So you are getting into something you don't believe in just
Uh-uh.
because the party is doing.
I'm coming back to the question. Why are we going for the election? If it is to change government, we shouldn't. If it is for leadership, expose, we should go because we can all do that. Are we together? And I am going to genda kulabisa, tugenda kuzoganya. We are going to teach people about NOOP, about, we are going to tell people what the regime is doing. That we are going to do. But if we want to change the current government, elections are not working. So I am going to go there. I will try to represent my people. I will kuzoganya. I will kulabisa everything they do. I will do. But if it is to change the government, elections are not going to happen. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, tugenda kuzoganya, tugenda kulabisa. That's the statement that I had from the beautiful lady, and she's a counselor, by the way, for the youth in Mukodo. So I'll get back to my brother, the only gentleman who has stood the test of time, and he's like, we should go for an election. And maybe at a certain point, the ladies in the room were agreeing with him. Nova, I think you've had the submission from the two ladies. I won't think it's offensive for me to call you ladies because you are that. It's not like it's against the other, but you've listened to them. As much as one ended up kind of leaning to you, saying, Kale, let's say if there's an election, then I'm coming, I'm standing for office, and she's been serving her people. Still, they stood their grounds. Fagala, what do we want? We want, to curb the election, not going for the election. And Nova, I don't know how feasible that is to your end. And maybe what I may need is a yes or no, and maybe towards to support that. But at the end of the day, like I said, the young people should stop looking at politicians or political figures as the sole definition of what change could be. What are the young people doing differently this time round? We are going in for an election, right? And you stood for that. Or we are not going in for it. Depends, because we still have time to think about it. The nominations are in October. What are we doing differently? You're an activist. In about 4 minutes. Yeah.
Um, let me tell you something, and my sisters here. Choosing a boycott, I think if all opposition political parties chose to boycott the elections, Museveni and his people would look for a very huge penthouse somewhere and buy all the drinks that have ever happened in this country and celebrate.
Yeah, sure.
Because it is only through political parties that Museveni has been on pressure and his regime. It is only through that. Imagine a parliament where you don't have opposition members of parliament. This is a legislative arm of government.
Caucus.
You know, right now we would not even need the caucus to go and have a debate about the Supreme Court ruling and the reinstallment of the General Court Martial, because we would have NRM, only NRM in parliament. So they would not even need to sit in a caucus to convince themselves. They would just come to the parliament and just pass the whatever they want to do. Just imagine. I mean, the moment you withdraw from participating in an election, you have destroyed everything that people look up to, that people have hope in. People have hope in the political parties. That is why the young people you see sacrifice their lives. They are not stupid. They are not stupid, but they come to rally behind a political party or an opposition leader because they have hope in them. Now you are saying we are not participating, and like she said, there is no other option. Actually, she didn't mention any other option. because after the election, when it is only, even if you wanted to mobilize for an uprising, it is during an election that you have the anger of the Ugandans. It is during that election when people have, like in 2021, it was easy for anyone to mobilize for an uprising. Yeah. But like I said, many Ugandans are not yet at that level of, they have the anger, they are frustrated, but they don't know what to do yet, you know. And even in other countries where we have had mass uprisings, yeah, it's been because there has been one significant incident, you know, that has pushed people to rise up and fight. So the only thing that can spark a mass uprising in this country is an election, actually. That election period. It is the only thing. Once you start, we boycott, then we first go and start preaching. This is a long, we have short-term and long-term goals. You are talking about a long-term goal. When are you going to be able, what resources do you have to be able to educate, to sensitize, to do civic education to the 50 millions that we are now in Uganda? Okay? So anyway, uh, I think that, well, we have opportunists even in opposition, those who are just come to get, these offices. But we have honest patriots who really want change. But you have a discussion with everyone. Boycotting election is not an option. Trust me. Let me get to the young people. And this, I think, should be a take home for all of us as young people. One, the fact that I believe in an election. I want to call upon young people to participate in the elections. The young people themselves. Yes, the young people. Just imagine that if our minds here, you know, and trust me, it is actually the young generation, our generation, that understands what we are going through as a country more than any other person. Our fathers and grandmothers will tell you, we lived at Amin's time and the other regimes, and we think we are better. You know, they that's what the other generations. It is our generations that is exposed, that has moved, that can draw comparisons between our country and other countries. And it is our generations that are facing the oppression. I think each of us here has been arrested before for just, speaking out. We are seeing what is happening at NUP. They invade their offices, they vandalize everything, they break doors, they steal their things. Moderator, I think you're giving me the most minimal time compared to my other. I don't know. So, uh, uh, so, so, as I conclude, I want to call upon young people to get involved, to participate in elections and stand for different positions, whether LC1 or LC2, LC5. Like I said earlier, during elections is the time you have. Today, trust me, Margaret, if you can now call 20 people and address them because you're a councillor, because you're in that position, you have a mandate. But me as Gideon, who may not have any kind of leadership, the moment they hear me tell people about politics, they will come and arrest me. During elections, during elections is the only time when even one who is not aspiring to be anything can actually have people. Yes, they will come tear gas you and everything, but at least it's time for you to mobilize and pass on the message, especially for you people who are aligned under political parties. So I call upon young people to get into these spaces. I call upon young people to serve in different capacities. You don't have to be in an elective position to serve community or to pass on the message or to, you can even preach the gospel. You can transform people's minds. You can use the social media that she's talking about. I am informed X has only around 1.5 million active users in Uganda, just 1.5 million, or X. And this is, I think, the most active space in as far as politics is concerned. We just have 1.5 million people. So we need to use, yes, social media, but also how can we have other people come to these spaces where we actually the message, where our message is. You know, why should you be in a home where you have your siblings and they are not on X and you can't convince them to be on X, yet you know there is good message on X. The X can actually open their eyes and their mind. So finally, I appeal to young people to get active and get involved and get concerned about what is happening in the country. Today it's happening to Aaron Kiza. The other day it's happening to Bobby Young. The other day it happens to Machete. Tomorrow it will happen to me, to Margaret, and to any other person. So thank you so much. I insist we need an election. We need to participate in an election.
Okay, so I'm going to. I've had closing remarks from the president of X, right, in
Yes.
Uganda, and I'm going to have closing remarks from Mama Mukono. Yeah, these two women, by the way, that I have here are into leadership. The future MP, woman member of parliament, Mukono district, and I have the MP, Omoro district. So yeah, in 2 minutes, what are you telling us?
Thank you so much, moderator. Maybe to clear something, I have never dreamt of being a woman MP. I want to be an MP. I stand against men, not fellow women. So I want to be a direct MP for
That's
Mukono
big.
municipality. Yes. And
Oh, you are fearing numbers.
her seat is what I want. She's not a woman
Hey,
MP.
she's a member of
Exactly, that one. So, okay, so as we close, maybe to be very clear about whatever I have said, I stand for an election boycott only if we know why we are going into the election. I don't know if that makes more sense. If the reason for us to go into the election is to change government, then we shouldn't. If it is to get leaders, expose, teach people, represent, then we should go for the election. I'm up for it 100%. But if we want to use it as a tool to change governance, then I'm saying it is not working out. So, as the leaders, as the people of Mokono, and as the people of Uganda, we should ask ourselves these questions. And if all we want is representation and, to keep invoking emotions and, increase the pressure, we should, in large numbers, stand up and give a protest vote to all opposition leaders. I don't know if I make sense. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Okay, to sum it up, she has said if you want to keep eating, please keep cooking. At the end of the day, you won't have a meal without cooking. So, to the lady who has been seated next to me, woman MP Omoro district, right? We're going to have closing remarks from you. 2 minutes and yeah.
Thank you for having us today. Before I conclude, I want to tell you, my brother, there's no uprising that can happen during the election. No one is going to come out of their houses when there are trucks of military everywhere, so it's not going to happen. But I believe an uprising can happen any other time. To conclude, my conclusion, thank you so much once again. As a member of National Unity Platform, I will tell Ugandans right now, if we are boycotting, let us all boycott. Not just president, but let us all boycott if we are boycotting. And then if we are going for the election, please, the protest vote is here, and let us all go and vote the right leaders. And I already said I'm a member of National Unity Platform, so you know who the right leader is. Thank you so much, and I remain Apio Ramto Flavia, commonly known as Flash.
Moderator, maybe a second.
Yes,
Yes.
you have 30 seconds.
Yes, I want to call upon especially the young Ugandans and all Ugandans to be mindful of who you're voting. please, mtuyambe. You cannot vote because you've been given 10,000, because you've been given a pack of salt. You cannot vote someone because they are your brothers and sisters. No, you can't vote someone because they are beautiful. I have seen, especially where I come from, you see someone saying, hey, that lady has a good body and what, and they are voting, because of that. Let's be serious. This is why we have a kind of parliament that has become a laughing stock at a global level. Who do you vote? We all know where we come from. We know people who are leaders, who are natural leaders, but we are not voting them because probably they don't have the money that we want. We are asking for money. So let's be serious and vote people who are going to stage defiance on the floor of parliament at different levels of leadership, and that in the long run, I can tell you, when you vote the right people into those offices, in the long run, we are going to achieve the change that we need. Thank you.
Okay, so my producer, each and every panelist of mine is now asking questions. Do I have the time?
A minute.
Okay, I'll have a minute for each of the ladies.
No, yes. I just want to agree totally with my brother Gideon. Please let us stop selling our minds for 5,000 shillings. You're selling your vote for 10,000 for a bar of soap. Please let us have a conscience. Let us vote the right people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. On the same note, I want to agree with my brother Gideon.
Finally, we agree.
No, no, no. On the issue of who to vote, if we are going to vote, you people, because of the 10K, the 5K, the bows